Pink lunchboxes for Valentine's Day, a couple of really bad jokes that our kids have shared, and me issuing a mea culpa because maybe I've been too strong on one particular parenting behaviour that maybe I was wrong. That's all I'm saying. Hello and welcome to the Happy Families Podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, and today it's I'll Do Better Tomorrow. It's the day, Kylie, where we talk about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and how we can do better tomorrow, because we care about parenting, we care about our kids, we want our families to be happier. Got a couple of jokes that we've got to make our way to, but before we do that, over the last few weeks, I've done a lot of professional development in schools as I've been running seminars around the country, and I bumped into somebody at Buderim Mountain State School. I was doing some PD there about emotional intelligence and well-being in the classroom, and a lady by the name of Corinne walked over to me. She said, "I'm so excited to meet you. I have listened to every single episode of the Happy Families podcast. I listen to it every day. I never miss an episode. And I just wanted to say hello." We had the best conversation. She was just fabulous. She loves you much more than she loves me. Probably not surprised to hear that. And so I just wanted to say hi to Corinne.
We're a team, my honey.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to Corinne because I thought that was awesome. All right, our kids have given us a couple of gags lately.
Well, it's not so much gags. They were actually talking about the worst lies that parents tell their kids.
Yeah.
And the one that jumped out at me from the long list was chicken the animal is different from chicken the meat.
Having that conversation because one of the kids wants to be a vegetarian.
So bad. What was yours?
One of the kids walked in and she did this really funny voice, like this really kind of voice. So I'm just going to do it in my normal voice, but imagine a kid talking to you in that kind of voice. And she goes, "Hey, Dad, what's an HD?" And I said, "I don't know, what?" And she said, "I don't know either, but the doctor reckons I've got 80 of them."
It's so funny on so many levels.
ADHD. That's brilliant. What's an HD? I don't know, but the doctor says I've got 80 of them.
It explains so much.
All right, Mrs. Happy Families, what's happened this week that's going to help you or help everyone to be better parents over the weekend and next week?
Well, one of our daughters has started a new school. And it started off really well. And then the other day she came home after a really, really hard day.
Context, around the nation, people have been starting new schools everywhere, new high schools, new primary schools. But this particular daughter has had a year and a half off school for homeschool. And now she's decided, I'm in grade 10. I need to go back to school. She's chosen the school. She's made all the decisions herself. We're supporting her in that. But suddenly it's hard.
And you had a small conversation with her when she got home, and I tried to instigate, I guess, a deeper, a more explorative conversation with her later that night, and she still wasn't ready to talk. But the next day, as we were driving to school, I said, how are you feeling today? I said, yesterday seems to have been a really hard day. She said, yeah, it was. I said, when you think about the experiences that you're having right now at this new school, are they any different from the kinds of experiences that you had previously at school? Is it the school that you're at? Because we're going with a completely unconventional format of education.
Yeah, it's a different model. This school works differently to most schools.
And whether or not the challenges are associated with the new format or whether this is just school in general. And she said, Mum, it's got nothing to do with the format. She said, it's just kids these days. She really, really struggles with the lack of respect and especially towards teachers in general. And so the classroom was just really busy. She's at the moment doing subjects that do not interest her.
Developing new relationships with new friends, the whole thing. It's a lot. So much going on for kids when they start a new school.
And she said, and I just got to a point where I was just in complete overwhelm, Mum. And I said, okay. I said, when you talk about overwhelm, I said, are you talking about emotional overwhelm? Are you talking about physical overwhelm? Are you talking about just social overwhelm? What overwhelm is it specifically for you right now? Is this, kind of too much stimulus? And she said, no, it's definitely emotions. I said, okay.
I love how you're stepping that out though and getting curious about it. You've identified, it sounds like it's this, tell me more. There's so much value in helping her to do that. It's not about doing therapy. It's just about helping her to feel seen and heard and valued so that you can move to a productive resolution.
Well, as I kept talking to her, she acknowledged it was definitely emotional. And I said, when you were in that space, I said, do you know what emotions you were feeling? She said, no, not really. And I said, okay. I said, this is really important. This is really cool that we get to sit here and talk about this. I said, because we're not able to move through this until we actually understand it. We actually can start to narrow in and pinpoint the experiences we're having. And because we've just recently watched Inside Out 2 with the kids, I was able to take her back to the movie and I said, do you remember towards the end when anxiety took over? She completely had control of the situation, or lack of control, for want of a better explanation. And I said, what was happening in that moment? She said there was absolute flurry. You couldn't see anxiety because there was an absolute flurry around the control center of her brain. And I said, and what did Joy have to do to break through that? She, literally, clawing to break through anxiety's flurry. But once she got to the control center, what she realized was that in spite of all that flurry, anxiety had actually frozen. Anxiety was no longer in control. She had just taken over. And it required so much energy and so much effort for Joy to push through, because ultimately that's what Joy's job is to do, is to pull her out of these crazy spaces. And I said, so when you get like that, I said, it's really easy for you to just kind of get caught up in the flurry and to kind of freeze in the moment. And I said, but if you can sit there for a little bit longer and just start to get curious, like I am with you now, and start to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Or what am I experiencing? What am I experiencing right now? I'm feeling dizzy in the head. My stomach's churning. I'm feeling a bit, like crawly around my skin, whatever it is, but actually write that down, so that when you come back, we can have a talk about that. And I said, and if you can sit there for just a little bit longer, maybe you can start to work out what emotion you're experiencing right now. And I said, do you think that if you did that, that we could then start to work out the coping strategies you would need to actually work through it? And she kind of looked at me and she said, I don't know, Mum. I said, you've heard the word trauma used before. We talk about traumatic experiences. Somebody in the family's passed away. We've lost a pet. I said, you've failed an exam. Those things people usually associate with being traumatic. I said, but it's actually not the experience that's traumatic for us. It's how we process it. So in this space, you're feeling overwhelmed. And I said, and you're struggling to process it. And so you don't have the coping mechanism just to help you through it. I said, but if we can sit there for a little bit longer in that space of uncomfortability, maybe we can start to build the strategies that you're needing so that you feel empowered. That's what it comes down to. We want our children to feel empowered, that they can actually work through these challenges without us sitting there by their side. But for the time being, they need a little bit of coaching. And so I guess my I'll do better tomorrow is really just the acknowledgement when our kids are having a hard time. Sometimes they need their own space and time to process before we actually go in. But once we do, just sitting in that space of curiosity and compassion as we help them work through it.
Yeah, there's all these steps to emotion coaching. But sometimes it's actually just having a conversation about emotions and moving towards a solution because everyone's calm and feeling understood. After the break, my mea culpa, the stuff that I got wrong about parenting and what I've learned thanks to a swimming carnival. Okay, Kylie, it's hard for me to say this, but sometimes I get stuff. Did I get it wrong? I don't know if I got it wrong, but I've made a big deal about it so far in the pod that I got it wrong. So let me just spell it out. In one of my books, 9 Ways to a Resilient Child, I have an entire chapter talking about how competition is bad for kids and their resilience. It doesn't have to be, but generally speaking, competition is bad for your kids. Why? Well, because when they're winners, sometimes they interpret the fact that they've won, whether it's the cross country or the Eisteddfod or the major role in the play, whatever it is. When they're winners, they start to believe that their identity is tied up in winning. Therefore, they become quite fragile at the possibility that they won't win. Therefore, the competition that drives the success so they can get the trophies or the plaudits, whatever, the acclamation, actually leads to what I'm going to call a hollow form of resilience. It shatters easily if they don't keep winning. Makes sense, right? Conversely, losing, well, that tells you that you're a loser, especially if the competition is important to you, especially if you want to base your self-esteem around how well you perform at academics, maths, science, cross-country, swimming carnivals, athletics carnivals, whatever it is that's going on. And so we have this thing where competition can drive losers to feel worse about themselves because they feel like literal losers, and winners to feel worse about themselves because if they don't win, what does that really say about me? I mustn't be a winner. I must be a loser. I'm anti-competition because I believe, especially when kids are younger than about 10 to 12, that if they can't demonstrate competence, they're going to feel lack of resilience. And if they are demonstrating competence, but there's a risk that that competence is going to be shown up by somebody more competent, that it's a hollow form of resilience. Okay, that's the backdrop. As a result of that approach, we've spoken to the kids about competition and we've never really encouraged it. The kids have been involved in a bit of netball here and there, and they've done a bit of this and a bit of that, but they've never really been involved in competitive pursuits. And I've felt fine about it because I don't want my kids to feel like their self-esteem is based on them making other kids feel bad about themselves. Like, why is it that competition is about, I get to feel good so long as you have to feel bad? Winning is mutually exclusive. When you get older and you understand competition and it's not so much about your identity, like for me, if I was to go back to competitive cycling, it would be because I love the cycling and the camaraderie and I love pushing myself in a bike race. It wouldn't be because I get to say that I won the 50 and over age group. Like, who cares, right? But for kids, they can really internalize that stuff. So our kids haven't done competitive stuff. And even on days where they've said, I don't want to do the swimming carnival, I don't want to do the cross country, we've always encouraged them to go. We've encouraged them to participate, to be part of the team and to have a crack. But if they've really put up a fight, we've been pretty relaxed about it, said, sure, stay home, be productive, it's your call. Well, our year 12 daughter went to her swimming carnival just last week. It was on Friday. She decided to go. She was going to cheer from the sidelines. First time she's been to a swimming carnival in years. There's been some health issues. She's had a bad mindset towards it. And perhaps a small factor has also been the fact that I've made a big deal about not being competitive. She went to a swimming carnival to cheer from the sidelines last week, decided that she would participate after all.
Well, they didn't actually have anyone from her team.
No, nobody in her house was going
to swim.
Yeah, but there were other girls swimming in the year 12 race, but she said, oh, I might as well do the opens. I'll get in there. I'll participate. It's my last year of school. I've never participated. I'll give it a go. She won everything. She won everything. Now, here's the funny thing. Her winning didn't make other people feel bad, firstly. But secondly, I saw a difference in her because she felt competent and because she received warm attention from the people around her because of her ability. She came home a different kid. I saw a level of confidence in her that I don't know if I've seen, certainly not for a long time. And it made me rethink if kids, now granted, she's at the upper end, right? She's about to turn 18. So she approaches competition differently. It's not about identity. And yet, what this really is a story that competition approached the right way can build identity. Not identity of I'm a winner, but rather identity
I'm a swimmer. In this instance, I'm a swimmer.
Or I'm competent and it feels good to be competent. It's a confidence booster. And I kind of feel like I need to walk back my harsh anti-competitive stance. The things that I've said about competition, they're research and evidence-backed. They're still, quote-unquote, correct. But I'm less convinced that they're useful. I used to think that they were purely true and therefore they were right and therefore they were useful. But watching what's happened with our daughter as she's had this experience, I'm questioning that and I'm wondering if there's a way that we can help our children to engage in competition because they enjoy the activity and they enjoy the relationships and they enjoy the competence.
That's the key, though. When our children want to be involved in something, they're motivated to be involved in it. They do it because they love it.
Right.
It doesn't matter. The outcome doesn't matter when they love it. But too often we place our children at really young ages into competitive arenas and they're not emotionally ready.
Yeah, so I'm right. There we go. I was right after all, but I'm also wrong. And that's what I want to highlight. The context is everything. The goals, the striving, the aspiration, and the impact that it has on identity, the way that we process. You talked about trauma with our daughter. The way that we process the win or the loss is actually what's important here.
And how we support others around us as they go through that process.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you said that. So the take-home message is help your kids to feel competent. And if that means being involved in competition, maybe I was wrong, if you can do it the right way. We really hope that these stories and these ideas help you in your parenting. I'll do better tomorrow. We'll be back next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rowland from Bridge Media. If you would like more information, more resources to make your family happier, you'll find it at happyfamilies.com.au.